Single men of Reddit, what made you definitely not want a second date with a woman you went out with? Part 1. We went to her place, and her pets and plants were all dead. I saw goldfish floating upside down in a fish tank. And she had a dead hamster in a cage on her dining room table. She said, "Oh, that happens a lot." And all I'm imagining is hamster after hamster starving to death right in front of her. The word sociopath floated into my mind. I made some excuses to leave and she went a bit nutty at that point, which concerned me quite a bit, but at least I already figured her head was seriously spun. I'll be reusing your description of her department in my D&D games. I once went to a movie as a first date with a girl. Her idea? Bad idea. She got there late and the movie had already started. She then wanted to talk during the movie, in the middle of the crowded theater. I didn't shush her or anything, but everything was a one-word answer trying to end the conversation. She got up halfway through and said I was obviously not interested in her. She was right. Lol. Reminds me of this date I went on where the guy kept asking me if I was okay because you're being so quiet. Yeah, we're at a movie theater. You'd have to get rid of your cat. I get rid of you first. And that was the end of that. I actually had 2 women tell me I'd have to get rid of my cat pretty much immediately. You idiot. A cat is a life commitment. I actually had the flip side of that. I mentioned the cat, she oohed and ahed over a couple of pics. Asked to meet the cat. No problem. She meets the cat and loves him for a bit. Then looks up at me with shining eyes and says, in all innocence, I have a kitten too. You'll need to come over and meet my pussy. She turned beet red right after the words came out. We had a good laugh and dated a few months after that with an amicable parting. So, I'm not proud of this one, but I'll share. Years ago when I was still single, I met someone online. We chatted a bit, she seemed cool enough, and we decided to meet up for a burger at a place I knew downtown. Seemed like a kind of a low-key thing. I get to the bar a few minutes earlier and order a beer, and finish it. Then 45 minutes later she rolls in. Okay, cool. We all have jobs and have dealt with traffic and whatever. It happens. But no excuse, just a shrug and a, that's how it goes sometimes. She sat down. We began chit-chatting. She asked about my work, and I assumed it was regular nervous small talk. But no, it was trying to feel out how much money I made. When she asked my job title and I told her, she immediately suggested that we leave this casual pub place to hit up a wine bar down the block. Okay, I guess. It's a little more upscale than I had in mind, but okay. We walk there, get seated, and then come to the menus. She ordered herself dinner, some kind of seafood thing that cost an insane amount of money. And a bottle of wine, not a glass, mind you, a $250 bottle of wine. I had already ordered a drink from the bar for myself and got the impression that this was not wine to share. She kept talking about how much her job sucked and how little it paid, and how no one at her work was fun to hang out with. Like the only conversation she had was bashing work and co-workers, with a few mildly racist undertones. The whole time she was texting friends to meet up that evening. I was invited, of course, to party with them all night, and I assume bankroll their fun. I discreetly went up to the bar, paid for my drink, and just left. Straight up noped out of there, without so much as a goodbye. From my messages when I checked in online later, I know that I stuck her with an almost $500 bill and that she was going to sue me for it. Heard from the wine bar owner later, it was close to work and a sometimes happy hour spot, that she apparently tried to skip out on the bill, but they stopped her and she paid. By the way, my very next date was with the woman I eventually married. It went much, much better. I'm not sure why you aren't proud of that. You probably subsequently saved dozens of future guys hundreds of dollars. She got what she deserved, and the restaurant got paid. All good. I went on a date with a lady I met online. She talked about 3 things on this date, and little else. Her pets, her ex, the last time she had gastro. There was no second date. She had a 1-year-old and told me about a recent nasty divorce. No problem, until she told me that the divorce was due to the baby not being his. I'm consistently impressed by the number of people who are apparently willing to out themselves as cheaters, and on the first date no less. I assume they must think it's no big deal, or it happens to everyone. Little do they know they're generously handing us big red flags and sending us on our way. I drove her home because she didn't have a car at that time, and she asked us to stop for an errand, to pick up matching t-shirts she had designed for her and her ex. That's rude that she didn't make you one. She said, "Haha, can't wait for you to meet my older brother. He just got out of jail for selling heroin." Me, "Didn't you tell me your younger brother was addicted to heroin?" Her, "Yeah, I wonder how that happened." Wonder how that happened? When you don't put any points in INT. When we saw Fury in the theater, she read the subtitles out loud. I'm not sure if she thought I couldn't read them or if she needed to sound them out, but I knew at that moment no follow-up was necessary. I've done this so many times when watching something with other people. My wife is visually impaired, so reading captions aloud when they pop up is a reflex at this point. I arrived at her place, and she told me to hop in her car as she just needed to drop something off at a friend's house real quick. It wasn't a friend. It was someone she had an appointment to sell these hot oil diffusers and their millions of scented inserts to. I sat in a stranger's home for 90 minutes while they smelled them all. She wanted to go to dinner afterwards, and I asked her to please drop me off at the car so I could go home. She had a business to run. Guess it didn't even make it a whole first date. I've posted this before because it's so weird. I went for a meal with this girl I met through a dating app, and it was going really well. We started talking about movies, and then we decided to go to the cinema to go watch Inception. She said there was a cinema nearby, but I didn't know the area at all, so I used the GPS on my phone, and she held it and directed me. Once we got there, we started walking inside, and I realized I didn't have my phone in my pocket. I said I must have left it in the car and started to walk back to get it. She was trying to get me to leave it, saying we would miss the film. But the phone was only about a week old, so I was really paranoid about it. We checked the car for about 10 minutes, but we couldn't find it. I asked her to check her jacket and bag, but she said it wasn't there. A couple parked next to us, so I asked them to ring my number because I couldn't find it. It started to ring, and it was obviously coming from my date's handbag. She took it out and said she must have missed it. I thanked the couple and locked my car, and as I turned back around, she was walking the other way. I ran to catch up and asked what was going on, but she was very dismissive and was barely talking. That's when I realized it probably wasn't an accident and just left her to walk home alone. Had a date one time when I made a spontaneous move to see David Sedaris when he was speaking in a nearby town because I knew he was one of her favorite people. We have less than an hour before it's scheduled to start, so I start driving and hand her my credit card so she can order tickets while we're on our way there. We arrive at the venue and I drop her off at the entrance and find a parking spot because it's raining heavily. She goes to the box office with my card to pick up the tickets. I follow behind about 5 minutes later because of the rain and full parking lot. I could not get my card back from her the entire time we were walking to our seats. I asked and she would say, "In a minute," while walking ahead of me. Only until I stepped in front of her and asked her directly for my card did she hand it over. It was the weirdest thing. I don't think she was trying to steal it, or at least I hope not, but she was really scatterbrained and could only focus on one thing at a time, which was mostly herself. She asked if I had any love interests still in existence. When I said no, she didn't believe me. She told me she wanted to travel the world and see old friends who were guys, and thought that I, as a lawyer, should work and pay for her travels. She was insane. She also offered to have fun in her car in the first 5 minutes of the meeting. No second date for you. Teeth as black as the night. She didn't have any diseases or syndromes, but simply no time to brush her teeth. For the record, her photos didn't show her teeth. I have a good friend who has to see teeth in a profile pic on a dating site or it's a no-go. Now I know why. Met her at a hospital. I was an ER patient for a hand wound. She was a phlebotomist. Asked her out to a movie and then dinner. Had a really excellent talk about comics and movies. We were getting to know each other and flirting. It was clearly a date. At the end, when I told her I'd like to do it again, she said her fiancé probably wouldn't be cool with it a second time. At the hospital where I work, it's a fireable offense for any employee to accept a date with a current patient. I obviously have no idea where you live nor the hospital where you were treated, but it is possible that the phlebotomist realized she could lose her job if someone saw her out with you, freaked out and made up the story about her fiancé to easily get out of another date. Of course, it could just as easily be any sort of other reasons too. The wife and I went to a new restaurant fairly far away after my shift, and I saw one of the nurses that I work closely with, and we went over to say hello. The nurse looked like she had seen a ghost, and she immediately said, "Doctor, can we talk for a second?" I said, "Sure." She took me aside and said that she accepted a date with one of her patients from earlier in the day, and she was afraid that she would run in with co-workers, hence why she chose a place far away from the hospital. She asked me not to report her. I said that what she does on her personal time is none of my business, and my lips are sealed. But be careful, as not everyone sees things the same as I do. I didn't work again till Sunday, and during my shift the nurse told me that even though the guy seemed nice enough, she made up a story to get out of another date as she didn't like feeling like she had to sneak around just to go on a date. The nurse just got married a few weeks ago to her college sweetheart, who moved back into the area after working in Germany for a bunch of years. I met a girl from my university for dinner one time, and she started the date off by saying she only ate with her hands and didn't use utensils because she's a super taster and can taste the metals they're made of. This wouldn't have been a problem if we were eating finger foods, of course, but it was a problem as I watched her eat a salmon fillet and wild rice like Gollum. You'd think she'd bring her own taste-free utensils.